Hello, party people of YouTube. It is I, Brad, from the Big Family Homestead with the one, the only, the legend, the myth, the accusation. Not accusation.
Yes.
JNULL0. How you doing, brother?
Hey, guys. How you doing? We're doing good, man. How you guys doing?
Oh, man, it's been far too long since we've done an interview. And I was talking to you actually on the telephone yesterday, and I think I've come up with a title that you'll hate, but it's pretty much true. I think you are one of the patriarchs of homesteading on YouTube.
No, not even a little.
I know you would say that. But for those of you who don't know, I know there's three of you out there. I know there's three of you, but JNULL0 is absolutely the getter done at all costs with a bubble gum and a piece of stick. He will provide meals for you and the house will be warm, and he's just one of those dudes that can figure things out, and I applaud you, sir.
Man, you build me up like that, and then people hear me talk, and they're like, man, that was flute.
Well, I got time. I got no time for those kind of people.
Just a regular dude, man. Regular dude.
So what is new and exciting in the Appalachians?
Nothing.
So
just a bunch of hillbillies doing hillbilly summertime stuff, man.
Okay, well, I got a lot of specific questions for you. So before I do, those watching right now, this is what I need you to do, because I've got an important announcement for those of you who don't already know. Just hit pause on this video, and you're going to open a new tab. Just do that for me right now. Hit pause, open a new tab, go to youtube.com, and in the search, you are going to type in regular dude fishing. Hit enter. Okay? Now come back and hit pause. Now we're back. We're back. Guess what? JNULL has a new channel. It's called Regular Dude Fishing, and we're all winning. We're all winning. Winning.
Well, I just didn't want my JNULL channel to be overrun with fishing videos, because I've been doing a lot of fishing this year, and so I figured rather than do any kind of a Patreon account or something that I have to learn how to do something new, I'll just make a second YouTube channel, and people who enjoy the fishing videos can go there and watch us fish and see what we do, and those who don't enjoy the fishing videos and like the homesteading stuff can just hang out with us on JNULL, and we'll keep doing what we do on there.
I love it. So, but if I was not clear enough already, the subscribe button is over on the right-hand side. It's red. You click that, and if you don't click that, I will haunt your dreams. And you don't want that. Just click it. You're going to love it. Now, I told you, I have grown up as with my dad. He always wanted me to come fishing. But this is Scout's honor truth. And I hated it when I was a kid, and it wasn't because I didn't want to spend time with my dad. It was because I never caught any fish. And so I would just get so mad that I would sit there and arms folded, and I don't want to be fishing. So how do I go from not liking fishing to being a catcher? I want to catch. I don't want to. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's where my kids are right now too. They like to hang out with us, but they would much rather catch than fish. And I don't think there's any answer. You just got to have patience. I know that, I'm in my mid-40s now, and I'm much more patient than I was when I was younger. And it's just a matter of sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't. I fish mainly on the bank because I don't have a boat. And so I go out there with the understanding that I'm going to put my bait in the water and hope that something swims by that wants to eat it, because I can't go anywhere else. So,
well, let me ask you this. In terms of somebody who is a completely raw beginner, how much money does it cost to get into fishing?
I bought my first rod and reel for my son back at the beginning of the summer, and it was a Zebco 33 that came. It was a combo. It came on a decent rod and stuff, and it already had the line on it. I think it was $25, and then buy a couple hooks and a couple little weights and dig up some worms and throw it in the water and see what happens. So $30 maybe.
Wow. Now, we were talking earlier in terms of fishing. You do this straight up early in the morning. Do you have to do it early in the morning?
No, I do, because one, it's still really, we're getting to the time of year to where it's cooler in the mornings and the evenings, but the sun is still pretty strong. It's really hot during the day. And plus we got other things we got to do during the day. So I'll get up at 2, 3 in the morning and go hit the riverbank for a few hours when it's still cool, when it's still dark, I've always heard everybody says, the best time to catfish, which is, I do a lot of catfishing, is at night. Well, sometimes I don't want to go out in the late evening and when it first gets dark, because that's usually bedtime for me. So, yeah, I get up and go out early, and I try to catch them early morning catfish. Sometimes I get lucky, sometimes I don't. Sometimes we're there, if they're biting good, we'll stay out for most of the morning until it starts getting warm. But now we're getting into the time of year to where, things are going to switch up a little bit, because we're getting into hunting season. And so we'll be doing quite a bit of hunting in the mornings and fishing in the afternoons.
Is there a bad time of the day to do it?
In my opinion, any time's a good time to fish. There's this thing called, I seen it on, I seen it on the Facebook or something like that. It was called the fishing brick. And it's just a brick. And what you do is you throw it in the air, and if the brick hits the ground, it's a good time to go fishing.
That's classic. So how many videos do you have up on the regular Dude Fishing channel so far?
I don't know. I think there's 6 or 7, maybe 6 or 7 or 8. Okay. I've made a couple. I made one the other day when we went out to catch. We go down to below the Greenup Dam, and we catch skipjack herring that we use for catfish bait. And I made one we caught quite a few, so we made one about catching the bait, and then I made one about how I deal with the bait when I get home, how I store it and get it ready to freeze, because they're pretty, they freeze or burn real easy, and if you freeze them and thaw them and freeze them and thaw them, they get real mushy and they come off the hook and they're not really good. So I just showed folks what I do with them when we catch a bunch of them and how I can store them in the freezer for the upcoming winter, because I'm not sure I'm going to be able to catch them in the wintertime, but I still want to be able to fish.
Let me ask you this now. I'm assuming this, and I'm asking the question from a position of ignorance. Are the principles of fishing generally the same from area to area, and you just kind of got to tweak them? Or is it, oh, this only works for here, and this only works for here?
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not a physiologist.
A physiologist?
I'm just a dude.
I thought you were a fish optometrist.
Like the skipjack herring, it works really good for catfish bait in our area, but it's because we have skipjack in the Ohio River. And I know they got them in like the Tennessee River and the Cumberland River and the Mississippi River, but I don't know if some dude in, Wyoming can get a skipjack herring and catch catfish. I don't know, if that would work. Or Oklahoma. I know they do a lot of catfishing over in that area. I just don't know if that would work. But I do know that earthworms and night crawlers work pretty much anywhere. You put one of them on the hook, throw it in the water, something's going to bite at it eventually.
There you go.
So,
let's switch gears for just a little bit, because we are getting ready to enter into fall. I think I want to say it's either today or tomorrow is the first day of fall. Summer is over. And what are some of the things that you have to do? New chores, what are things that you got to do to get ready for the impending white death from above?
We got to do some work on the barn. We're going to try to enclose in the ceiling and put a soffit on the big barn to hold in a little bit more heat. We got to get this other little shed area out here built. We've got the material from the barn that we took down across the road, but I still need to get some more roofing and some more 2x4s and stuff, which I think another dude that lives down the creek a ways has got some that I can barter with for it. So we should be able to start that project here pretty quick. And, just keep on that firewood pile. Nobody ever froze to death in the winter because their firewood pile was too big.
Yeah, that's true.
So just keep on the firewood. And, I got to get around to get my traps boiled and dyed and get them ready for trapping season. Me and my son, we've got our shotguns out and cleaned up and oiled up, ready for hunting season, checking our ammo stores and stocks and making sure that we got enough to get out there and start putting meat in the freezer. And we cleaned out the freezer, too, to make room for, stuff that we're going to be coming in.
So you mentioned you're boiling and dyeing your traps. What is the purpose of that?
Scent, and pretty much just the scent and to color them. When you handle your traps, especially without gloves, you leave human scent on your traps. Especially during the summertime when I'm moving them out of the way, doing this, doing that. And I'm always, I'm a big fat guy, so I sweat in the summertime. That's what we do. We sweat. So I sweat all over my traps. Well, come the fall, those traps still smell like big fat sweaty guy. And animals smell a lot better than we do. So I'll boil them, and that kind of cleans them off. And if you have brand new traps, you boil them, that kind of gets some of the oil from the manufacturing process off of them. And then I dye them and that coats them with like a real dark black or real dark brown coloring, and it helps coat it so your scent stays off of it. And then a lot of dudes will even get wax and melt wax and then dip their traps in wax. That way it kind of really prevents any kind of rusting or extra scent getting on the trap. I don't wax mine personally, but I have in the past. I just don't do it anymore. I'll boil them and dye them and make sure they're all in good working order and hang them up, and then I won't touch them anymore with my bare hands. I'll always have gloves on.
So, question: have you ever had any really crazy trapping stories? Something went wacky.
I caught a little coon last year in one of my traps, and it was just a little guy, so I figured I'd be nice and let him go, and he chewed the crap out of my arm and ripped my sleeve up on my shirt. He was mean. He was not happy. I mean, I finally got him wrestled down and took my rest of my shirt and put it over his head and got him held down to get him out of there. It was a leg hold, a foothold trap, and while you open up the spring and you can let him go. But yeah, it didn't go. I mean, I had a plan in my head and a picture of what it was going to happen. I just kind of hold him down and let him go, man, and he chewed the crap out of me. And so I was like, note to self.
So how much of the food that you either fish or trap or raise, how much of the meat your family consumes is something you guys do? Is it you raise or grow?
I would say at least 70%, maybe 80%. Usually we only buy like pork chops and bacon from the store. I mean, we can't afford to buy beef because beef is really expensive. We don't need to buy chickens because we raise chickens, and we have our rabbits, and then we fish and hunt. And our red meat supply for the year will come from deer season. So last year, where I live in Ohio, the county that I live in Ohio, we have landowner permits, and since we're landowners, we are allowed to take, this year we'll be allowed to take 2 deer per person in the household. And so we have 6 people in our household. So we can legally take up to 12 deer off of our property here for our personal meat supply. And we'll take all 12 of them, and that will last us through the better part of the year. We just used, I think we've got 8 or 10 pounds of ground deer meat left from last year that we're going to use up here in the next couple of days. We'll make a big meatloaf and stuff. And we just used up the last of our steaks and stew meat, I guess it was last month. So we're making room, getting ready for the fresh stuff to come in. But that's it'll be a little different whenever when we inseminate pork chop again this coming fall. And if everything goes well and we have pigs, then we'll have our own pork meat. We won't have to buy that anymore. And we'll be able to trade with one of the old timers down the creek who raises cattle. I'll be able to trade him some pork for some beef, so we'll be able to have access to beef as well. But as it stands right now, I'd say probably 70-75%, because we buy pork chops and we buy bacon and ham and stuff like that. We have to buy from the store still.
Dude, well, I got your problem solved, you see, because between my wife, myself, and our 7 kids, we'll just come over to your house, and that way you can shoot 18 more deer. Does that work?
You got to live here. We got to make you a resident for at least a winter.
You just got to have a card, right? You got to have something that says that I live there. Well, how the heck does he have 35 people living in that house? So tell me some of the challenges that you face during winter that maybe the average, because you live in a very steep area. There's a lot of hills. What are some of the challenges that you face that the flat grounders might not necessarily understand?
Well, I mean, the area that we live in here close to the river, sometimes we get nasty ice storms. And even just an 1/8 or 1/4 inch of ice, one is enough to bring down tree limbs, which will bring down power lines, because we're an old area and our infrastructure is really old and everything's above ground. And even if the power is still on, you're not going anywhere. I don't care how good your 4-wheel drive is with your tires on it. You get ice, nothing but ice on the road, you're not going anywhere except down.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's not good. We've had some of our big salt trucks go over some of these big hills and stuff because they lost traction. But other than the hills, I mean, a foot of snow is a foot of snow. It may be a little more difficult for us to get around. But even though, when I was a kid, I lived over by Iowa. It's a foot of snow over there would still kind of keep everything at a standstill for a little while. I think the things that we do that, like the normal dude doesn't have to put up with is, once our fire is going, we got to keep it going. We got to keep the house warm. I really hate the sound of the furnace kicking on in the wintertime, because I can usually generate enough heat with the heat exchanger, setting up a couple little fans to keep the house warm enough. And if the furnace kicks on, that means I'm just being lazy. I need to go stoke that fire. So,
well, now also too, I know that there's, I don't want to use the word caste society, but there's definitely a hierarchy of folks who live in that area, the Appalachians, where you've got your old timers and you got different, groupings of people. And I'm not saying this to flatter you, but you have been a huge, a positive impact in a lot of folks' lives. They're making sure that they have, the basics of living. Tell me how that hierarchy kind of has worked out.
what do you mean, like learning from the old timers?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Listen to them whenever they talk, and listen to what they're, because they're old. They don't want to just talk to be talking. If they have something to say, we need to listen to what they're saying, because you're going to learn something from it. And when I first moved out to this area about 15 years ago, we had a really hard winter, and it just kicked my butt. I mean, because I wasn't ready for anything. And you would see the old timers. I would see the old timers, a passing friendly hello type thing. Never really paid attention to what they were saying. Never really listened to anything. And then I was stuck out here one time. We had a snowstorm, and I was stuck. And I noticed everybody's chimneys was smoking except mine. And they were warm, and we were, a little chilly. So, and anyway, I just started listening to, because I was like, well, if I'm going to live out here on the creek, who better to learn from than somebody that's been living on the creek for 100 years? Hey, how do I live out here comfortably? How can I, grow a garden in our crappy soil that we have? How can I got steep hillside. What kind of critters can I use? What kind of critters can I run out here on the hillside? What do we got to hunt? What do we got to eat? What can I go gather out of the hills? If we're sick, what can make me feel better? And for me, that's our hierarchy, because our elders are held in really high esteem. I mean, I can't speak for everywhere Appalachia. I can't speak for everywhere in the country. I can speak for our creek road right here where I live in our little community. Our elders are held in very high esteem. They've been around a long time, generations and generations and generations of them. And so usually when they share something with us, we listen, and we take very seriously what their thoughts are about, certain things that go on in the world. Like, they've already told us that if something bad happens in the world, they just lock the creek down, meaning they're not going to let anybody come out here. They'll drop a tree over that into the creek road. They'll drop a tree over that into the creek road. And if you don't live out here, you ain't coming out here. So, and this is the kind of stuff, that they already know, because they've already done it. They did it one time back, I think, during the Depression, they locked the creek down. So, and it's just learning from them, and it's just respecting them enough to where, understanding that they may not be able to do anything for me monetarily or physically, but they have a lot of information, a lot of knowledge that they have given me. So in turn, since I'm still young enough and got a strong enough back, I'll make sure that they got meat in the freezer, and I'll make sure that they got firewood to burn. And that's, to me, that's a good barter. I'll gladly split firewood all afternoon for Uncle Bill, because he taught me, how to grow tomatoes in clay. And so, it's just an all-around benefit. That's our hierarchy, and usually what they say goes. I mean, we can protest, but we're not going to go against them, because that's never a good thing. So that's awesome. Living in community is something that I think most of society has lost. And I think it's something that needs to be regained, especially in light of the situations we face as a society. I mean, I've had conversations with you where you know how I feel. We're headed for a brick wall, and fast. And the reality is, if you don't know and are not actively involved with all your neighbors that way, and actively involved with all your neighbors that way, what happens if all of a sudden there's some crazy shortage and they can't all go to the grocery store? Yep.
You might be in the crosshairs if you're the only one who's got a bunch of food.
Well, I'm like you. I'm a firm believer in community. There's very few individuals that can do everything that needs to be done every day by themselves. I'm not saying it can't be done. It can be. But even like those old, like think back in the early 1800s, those old trappers, the old mountain men that went out west, they were awesome survivalists. They could survive anything, but they still had to go to the trading posts and the rendezvous to resupply. Most of them had a company somewhere around, they went out in companies and trapped. So, and our history as humans, we've always had little clans, little villages, little communities. What they do when the pioneers started going out west, they'd stop somewhere, build a church. There's a community. Everybody get to know each other. We help each other out.
Yeah.
And that's what, and like you say, we're getting away from that because I don't know how to finish that sentence. It's, I would, like you say, whenever something happens, we're not going to be able to depend on anybody except for us out here on the creek. We're going to have each other's back. And, I know dudes who have lived in town for 20 years and had their neighbors living right next door to them for 20 years and don't know who they are. Don't know them. Never took the time to bother to get to know them, to even say whether or not I like him or not, because I just don't know anything about him. So
building community is key. As we're kind of coming to the end here, I want to revisit regular dude fishing. If you have not clicked subscribe, you are absolutely you're spitting in my face. But go and check it out, because you know what? I'm excited about it because as an adult, I'm coming at this green and I want to learn from somebody who's done it a lot. So, because there's a billion different opinions and a billion different, hey, this is how I fish. I want to learn from somebody who's been doing it. Like, for example, hunting. I don't want to listen to like Joe Blow hunting if he's only doing it on the weekends once every other year and he's not really good in wounding animals and letting them run out there. I want to learn from somebody who's good at it. And so I can appreciate the fact that you do not put out content that you believe is faulty. I know that, and it's trustworthy stuff. And so as we're kind of coming to the end, encourage people like me. How do you get involved? How do you start? Because in all honesty, there's a lot of us who just frankly don't know this. We just don't.
Just start. Get a fishing pole and get you a little bucket of worms and go find a body of water somewhere. I mean, even if you start out catching little bluegills out of the creek and stuff, I mean, one, it's still fun to do. Two, if you catch enough of them, you can eat them for supper. And three, every time you fish, you learn more about fishing. You learn, what works. Well, is there going to be fish underneath the trees or laying next to the dead trees? Or are they going to be out in open water? What kind of fish are here? What kind of fish are there? What do they bite? Oh, I found this little thing on the ground, put it on the hook, throw it out there, nothing dead on it. Every time you fish and every time you hunt, you learn more about fishing and hunting. And you learn more about outdoors in general, because sometimes you'll see something. I could go fish the same spot in the creek for 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden one day I'm sitting there and I look next and there's a mullein plant that I never noticed before, or a hickory tree that I never noticed before, or something out there that would be useful that I haven't noticed before. And it's just all about just doing it. It ain't nothing to do with being good at it. I'm not good. I get lucky every once in a while. We catch a few, and every once in a while we get to have them for supper. Same thing with hunting. It's just putting in the work and just getting out and tromping the hills and doing the best I can.
Okay, last question, and this could be the most important question you answer all day long. What's your favorite fish recipe?
Favorite fish recipe is just plain old fried fish. We get something called cornmeal mix, which is a mixture of corn flour and cornmeal, and we bread them and pan fry them, and that's how we cook 99.9% of the fish we eat. We fry them, and sometimes we fry them in bacon grease. And sometimes we fry them in lard, but usually they're fried, and they're awesome.
You surprised me. I thought for sure it would have been like fish tacos.
No, we don't do a lot of fish tacos because we do other tacos.
There you go.
They're not bad. It's just when I get a hankering to eat fish, I want to sit down and eat fried fish and French fries and hush puppies and clog my arteries up as much as possible.
Well, thank you so much, John, for taking some time out. Viewers, if you don't know JNULL0's channel, there's the JNULL0 channel. That's more homesteading kind of stuff. But the regular dude fishing is new, and I'm excited about it because I'm looking forward to learning a lot. And, so thank you so much for taking time, brother. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for doing what you do as far as trying to keep everybody together and building community, sharing ideas and information. what you do is also a very good thing, brother. Thank you for all the time and effort that you put into it.
I appreciate it. So next time, see you later, guys. Everybody, out.